Everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be starting yet another reading vlog, but this one is going to be a little bit different from the vlogs that I've been doing so far this year. I figured it's been a while since I did like a multiple day reading challenge kind of situation, so I thought it'd be really fun to go ahead and do one over the next couple of days. I don't know how long this is going to take me because I am going to be doing the 24-hour readathon, but like with the timer method. So instead of doing the 24 hours over the span of one day, I'm going to be doing it over the span of multiple days, where I'm going to stop and start my timer when I stop and start reading. So yes, a classic 24-hour readathon. I am so excited. I feel like I'm always excited at the start of these videos, and then, you know, by the time I get to the end, I'm a little bit over them, but I feel like I'm back at the point where I've deluded myself into thinking this is a good idea again. So obviously I'm kidding. If I didn't enjoy filming these videos, you wouldn't be seeing one, but we're just gonna see how this goes. So let me just jump into talking about my TBR, and then we will get on into the video. So the very first book that I'm gonna be reading for this, I am so excited about because I've put this on so many TBRs, and then I have proceeded to not read it every single time. So in this video, I'm finally going to be reading Dungeon Crawler Carl. It is gonna be the book that I start first, hence the bookmark already being in it. This is a 5-star prediction for me, honestly. I have just heard excellent things about it. It's like a lit RPG fantasy, which I've never read anything like that before. So I just can't wait to get into it. I've also heard, you know, it's pretty fast-paced and pretty, you know, funny, pretty engaging. So I feel like this is gonna be the perfect pick for this video. Then next up, I wanted a shorter book on this TBR so I could really feel like I'm making some progress if I start dragging a little bit. And that is A Spindle Splintered by Alex E. Harrow. This is a, how long is this? Like 120 or so page novella that is a Sleeping Beauty retelling. I believe it takes place partially in the real world, and maybe our character gets like sucked into some Sleeping Beauty-esque kind of situation. Not 100% sure. But I've really enjoyed the other books that I've read from Alex E. Harrow, so when I saw that she had this like little novella, I decided it would be perfect. It's also on my spring TBR, so gonna make progress with that. It's gonna be great. And the last 3 books I have on here are some YA picks. I feel like YA books are just always so fast-paced and fun, and they are perfect for videos like this. So I have 3 that I've been really wanting to read. I don't know if I'm gonna get to all 3 of them, but I'm gonna aim to read all 3 of them. The first one being a new release that I'm so happy that my library hold finally came in for, and that is Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli. This is the book that follows Heartless Hunter or The Crimson Moth, depending on where you are. But I read The Crimson Moth last June, I believe, and you know, it wasn't anything crazy or unique, but I had so much fun reading it. It's like a witch and witch hunter fantasy romance kind of situation. It's fast-paced, it's fun, so obviously I wanted to read the second one and the last book in the series because it's only a duology. The only problem with this book is that I do not remember anything that happened at the end of Heartless Hunter, and I'm not gonna reread it because it's not the kind of book that I enjoyed enough to do a reread to get like reacquainted with it. But it's still a book that I enjoyed enough that I want to at least finish out the series, so you see the dilemma that I'm currently in. I'm sure there are videos or somewhere I can look at online to give me a recap of what happens at the end of Heartless Hunters, so I'm gonna have to do that before I jump into this. But regardless, I felt like this would, again, be a really good pick for this video. And then another new YA release, which I'm so excited about because I've heard pretty good things about it, at least from the people that I've seen read it so far, and that is The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. And I've heard it why did the lighting get so dark? And I've heard it pitched as Bridgerton meets the Selection series. Now, I've never read the Selection series. However, I have watched multiple videos of people recapping it, and it sounds really entertaining, so I figured I wanted to pick this one up. Apparently there's also fae in it. I did not read the like actual synopsis of this book. I still don't know what the actual synopsis of this book is. But on the back it says, when one makes a fairy bargain, one must be prepared to pay the price. I mean, I'm already intrigued. I already want to read it. Does that sound like just about every other book with fae in it? Yeah. But I'm gonna read it anyway, and hopefully it'll be fun. And then the last book that I have on my TBR is a little YA mystery kind of situation, and that is Death at Morning House by Maureen Johnson. I believe this is separate from the Truly Devious series. I really hope it is because I have not read the Truly Devious series. But I'm pretty sure it is. I'm fairly certain this is like its own standalone, and I don't know what it's about. But again, a YA mystery seems like the perfect kind of thing to put on this TBR, so there we go. These are the 5 books that I'm hoping to read in this video. It seems like a lot. I feel like it's been a minute since I did this much reading in like this short span of time. But you know, every now and then I'm always up for the challenge. So I'm really excited about this TBR. I've been, you know, curating it over the last week since I decided to film this video, and I feel like this is just kind of perfect. Like, I'm so excited about these. So with that, I think that's everything we need to go through before we get into the video. As I said, I'm going to be starting with Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I cannot wait. I'm hoping to, you know, fly through this today, maybe even finish it up today. We'll see how it goes. My aim is to finish my 24 hours over the next 4 days, which seems doable. I feel like, you know, the last couple times I've filmed this kind of video, it has taken me more than that, but hopefully I'll be able to like do this one within that time span. If not, that's okay. But like, that's what I'm aiming for, okay? So yeah, let's just get into the vlog. Honestly, I'm probably gonna do just about all the other stuff that I do in my normal vlogs, but there's just gonna be a lot more reading in this one. So I really hope you guys are excited. I hope you enjoy the video, and let's get into it by jumping in to Dungeon Crawler Carl. Alright, I'm back here with the first update of my 24-hour readathon, and I've been reading for 2 hours and 56 minutes so far, so solid progress. Still only an eighth of the way through, but solid progress nonetheless. And obviously I'm here to give you a quick update on Dungeon Crawler Carl, because I am almost halfway through this book, and I am enjoying it. I'm not surprised though. Based on everything I've heard about this book, I was like, yeah, this really seems like the kind of book that I would enjoy, and I definitely am. It's so funny, like the humor's absolutely ridiculous, but in a way that is right up my alley, so I figured this was gonna be something I was into, and it definitely is, but let's talk about it. So basically this book really gets right into it. Like in the first chapter, you're following our main character Carl, who for whatever reason happens to be outside at like 3 in the morning, I think. And he witnesses like all of the buildings around him essentially get like sucked into the ground, basically killing everybody that happens to be inside. And he finds out that everybody who is not inside a building now has an opportunity to go underground into these dungeons and participate in what is essentially an alien game show kind of situation. So basically there are like, I don't know, 14, 18, I think there are 18 levels of this dungeon, and your overall goal with all of this is to progress into all of the dungeons until you basically, you know, are offered a way out, or if you are the last one left. So we're just kind of following Carl as he is trying to deal with this incredibly odd situation. This is just such an interesting book. I've truly never read anything like it before, especially the blend of like the fantasy and real life elements to it, because Carl is just like from Seattle. Like in the beginning of the book, he's just like hanging out, doing real world things. He's got his ex-girlfriend's cat just chilling with him as well. Also, the cat does go into the dungeon as well. She is here on the front cover. Initially, I thought she was wearing like some sort of hat, but actually there's a better picture here. She is wearing a tiara, as she should be. But because this takes place in the real world, and then Carl gets like, you know, dragged into this world that has all of these like fantasy sci-fi elements to it, it's a really unique blend because it has all of these real world references, but also all of these like more fantastical elements to it as well. So for example, one of the like monsters that Carl is ending up having to like fight within these dungeons are these goblins, but the goblins like don't have names. So he ends up referring to them as Lorelei and Rory. And I was like, the last thing I was expecting in Dungeon Crawler Carl was a Gilmore Girls reference, but I had to laugh. I was like, this is absolutely so ridiculous. And there are just like a lot of other like real world references in this as well. And typically in some books, like, you know, pop culture references are not my favorite thing, but I feel like this book actually really benefits from a lot of these like real world references that are made, because it just exacerbates the oddness of the situation that Carl has ended up in. And it reminds you that like he was on Earth. And now, I mean, like he is on Earth, but like he's basically not. He's like in dungeons. It's just such a weird setting, but like I love it, honestly. I just think it's so unique. I don't want to say I love the humor, but like I kind of do, because a lot of it is so stupid. This is a lit RPG kind of book, so it feels very much like you're watching Carl advance through a video game basically. And there are all of these achievements that he unlocks as he like does different things while he's in the dungeon. And some of the achievements are just so funny. One of these is new achievement unlocked, trailblazing crazy cat lady, because he ended up bringing, you know, Princess Donut with him into the dungeon, which is a not normal situation. And the description of the achievement says, you are the first crawler to have entered the world dungeon accompanied by a cat. You must really love that thing. Too bad you're probably both gonna die a horrible death at any moment. Or maybe not. Look at the prize you just received. And like literally all of them are things like that. Some of them are really stupid, some of them are actually really funny, and they're just very entertaining, honestly. But the funny, quippy announcements and achievements and whatever that this alien organization has like programmed into this game, juxtaposed with the fact that Carl is there to be, you know, the most entertaining. He's supposed to be the last one surviving this game show, meaning Carl's probably gonna have to kill some people at some point for the amusement of like all of the people in the galaxy that are basically watching this game show. I'm sorry, I'm not laughing because that's funny, but like it just sounds so ridiculous when you actually say it out loud. But I'm just really enjoying this book so far. It definitely, like, from page 1, my interest was piqued, and it has not been unpiqued ever since, basically. So I'm very excited to read the rest of this book. I'm probably gonna finish it up today. I'd like to finish it up today. That feels doable, because I just want to see where this book is going. I also know this is the start to a series, so I don't know if this book is gonna follow Carl as he, like, goes through the first level or maybe the first couple of levels. But I'm interested to find out, because obviously as the levels progress, they're gonna get a little bit harder. So seeing Carl, who's literally just this like random guy from Seattle who like worked in the Coast Guard for a little bit, and you know, he's very average human, like seeing him being confronted with all of these magical creatures and all these potions that he can take and magical pieces of clothing that he can wear and just like all of this stuff is just fascinating, honestly. So very much enjoying Dungeon Crawler Carl so far. I don't know if it's gonna be a 5-star. I feel like the first chapter, I was like, this feels like a 5-star. I don't know if it still feels that way, but it's definitely a book that I am loving, and I will probably definitely want to continue on the series. So I'm going to read the rest of this. Maybe I'll do some journaling tomorrow morning, and then I'll give you a little final update on this. But it's going well so far. Really happy that I decided to choose this as my first book, because it has just been so attention grabbing, that's for sure. So yeah, I will talk to you guys tomorrow. right, so it is the next morning. I'm here not with like I finished a book update, but a time update at least. I thought I would let you know how things are going. So I recently made it up to 5 hours and 42 minutes. So I didn't read as much yesterday as I was hoping to. I had some plans last night that ended up taking a little bit longer than I was expecting, so I didn't have as much time to read as I was expecting to, but that's okay because I have the entire day ahead of me now to do some reading. I'm on some reading sprints with my patrons as we speak, so I will be doing quite a few of those today and hopefully making some progress in this book and one of these other books. I don't know which one I'm gonna start after Dungeon Crawler Carl, but I'll think about that in a little bit. I'll decide later. But yeah, I spent the morning reading. I also did finally do my first like weekly spreads in my new Hobonichi, which is very exciting. I've been so excited to switch to my new Hobonichi in April because I just like the cover of this one's so cute. I also did move over my little like plastic cover so everything's all nice and protected, but I'm also kind of sad to be saying goodbye to my last Hobonichi. So I did that this morning as well, and then while I was journaling, I did listen to my audiobook for A Dangerous Collaboration. I did not talk about this in the beginning of the video, but this is a book that I'm kind of just slowly working on throughout the month, so I figured why not read a little bit of it, you know? I'm sure a lot of you guys know I love the Veronica Speedwell series, and I'm currently doing a like 9-month-long readathon thing on my Patreon, so I need to read this one in April. Obviously I'm having the best time because this is my favorite Veronica Speedwell book, so yeah, decided to listen to a little bit of that, but I've already read this in a vlog a couple years ago, so we won't go too in depth. Actually, we're not going into depth with that at all. But let's talk about Dungeon Crawler Carl a little bit, because I think I've read maybe like 150 or so more pages, and Carl has progressed into the 2nd level of the dungeon, so I'm thinking maybe this will take us into the 3rd level as well, and I'm just really excited to read some more of this. It is just so good. I'm honestly having the best time with this book so far, and I'm just so happy to report that because again, it's a book that I thought I was really gonna like, and it is the most gratifying feeling when a book that you've been really excited for actually delivers. So very much enjoying Dungeon Crawler Carl. There is some humor in it that while I like it, some of it I don't like. Like, it's not even just that it's stupid, it's just I don't think it's funny. But for the most part, I'm pretty much enjoying everything in this book. Mainly, I'm really entertained by like all of the situations that our characters are getting into and all of the quick thinking that Carl manages to do, because he's definitely come up with some really creative ways to take down a lot of these boss battles that he's getting in, basically. As I said, this is very much like he is in a video game, and there are certain bosses that he has to defeat as he goes throughout these different floors. But seeing as Carl is not a video game character, and he is just a regular dude that has been thrust into this situation, he's not exactly equipped to deal with these like large-scale boss fights that he's getting in. So seeing how quickly he can think on his feet and seeing how creative and inventive he is with all of these random items that he's just been accumulating as he's been going throughout these dungeons has been really fascinating for me. I also just absolutely love the dynamic between Carl and Princess Donut. I never would have expected a cat to be such a solid main character. But she just adds such an interesting element to the story because she at times treats Carl basically like he is her manservant, but there are also times and you can tell like how close they're becoming, I guess, as like friends. Which again just sounds ridiculous when you're talking about like a man and a cat, but like it's actually just so well written and I do love it. I'm also really enjoying learning more about the like game show that they're basically a part of. It's kind of like, I don't know, Hunger Gamesy in a way, like not in the way that it's done because this isn't like a battle royale style kind of competition, but in the way that our characters have to kind of perform for the camera and they have to, you know, be likable and they have to get patrons to like support them and send them things. I think it's been really interesting. And also that comparison is really like coming to my mind because I just reread the Hunger Games trilogy last week, which was so good, by the way. So we're seeing Carl as he is just like absolutely over it. He's like, I don't care if these people like me. I don't care if they send me things. I'm just trying to survive. I did not ask to like be a part of this. I'm just doing what I can. But at the same time, Princess Donut is like eating up the attention. She's like, thank you, my adoring fans. And I just like, again, I just love their dynamic. It's so good. So again, really enjoying Dungeon Crawler Carl. Definitely planning on finishing this up early afternoon. And then what am I gonna get into? I don't know. I'll just kind of see what I'm feeling. Maybe I'll ask my patrons, see what they think. And I will talk to you guys probably later tonight with an update on what I've been doing. next morning. I just hit almost 11 hours on my timer, so I'm making pretty decent progress. I'm pretty happy with how much I've read so far. But I have 2 updates for you because I've finished a book and I've read a lot of another book, so let's chat about it. First of all, I did finish up Dungeon Crawler Carl. I loved it, honestly. It's not 5 stars. It's not 5 stars yet, you know? I feel like there will be a 5-star book in this series, but it's not the first one. But I still thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I am so excited to continue on with the series. I have already bought a copy of Carl's Doomsday Scenario, which is the second one, and I cannot wait to read it. I feel like it's gonna be so fun. I just had such a good time reading this book that I cannot wait for the second one. I do think there is some humor in this book that does go like one step too far, but like the rest of it is so good that like I truly don't even care. But like for your reference, now you know, but like I can overlook that because I just enjoyed the rest of the book so much. I love the characters. I feel like the plot was really fast paced. I feel like this was the perfect book to read, like binge it basically for this video. So I'm really happy that I chose this one as my first read for the video, and I cannot wait to see how the rest of the series unfolds, but I think it's gonna be great. So book 1 is down, and I have indeed started my next book because I've read so much of Rebel Witch. I'm currently on page 278, so I think I have like 170 or so pages left, and you know, it's doing what I wanted it to do basically, which was to entertain me. I have issues with this book. I have a couple issues with this book, but like for the most part, it's kind of just, you know, like a fantasy romance fun time, which is really all I needed from this book. One of my patrons did so kindly give me a little bit of a recap of the end of Heartless Hunters. So, you know, I went into this ready and raring to go, and it's basically delivering in the same way the first book did for me. So I can't be too mad at it, but you know, there are just some things that I don't like about it. There's some things that irritate me too. So let's talk about it. First of all, plot overall. I'm trying to think of what I can tell you, what exactly isn't a spoiler, seeing as this is the second book in the series. So in the first book, we're following our 2 main characters, Rune and Gideon. Rune being a witch, also known as the Crimson Moth, who's kind of like a masked vigilante figure who would rescue witches from the clutches of the New Republic, who is basically the like leaders of the area that they live in. And they hate witches. They hate witches vehemently. They put them to death, basically, and Rune would, like, go in and save them before that would happen. And Gideon is, like, a part of the New Republic. He's, like, a part of the witch hunting team, basically. And throughout the first book, we were kind of following them in, like, a cat and mouse game kind of thing. He didn't know that she was the Crimson Moth, but through some turns of events, they ended up, like... Was it, like, a fake dating kind of situation? I honestly don't 100% remember. But it's a dangerous dynamic to have and a dangerous line for Rune to walk because Gideon vehemently hates witches as well due to some personal experiences that he had. So the first book kind of focuses on that, and the second book, honestly, I think it does a pretty good job at keeping their relationship interesting and keeping me still invested in it. We've been following them as they are finding out some new pieces of information, some new wrenches have been thrown into some certain plans, but I like their relationship. I think it's fun. I like their banter. I like how evenly matched they are as well, because there's a lot of betrayal going on, but you can't really be more upset with like one of them than the other because they both have valid reasons for what they're doing, and they're both kind of like, you know, doing about the same amount of betrayal to each other. So it's that they're very evenly matched, which I like. And I also am a sucker for the typical like, oh my god, I hate you and you're the worst and I'm gonna like murder you. But like you can tell they're absolutely so obsessed with each other. So the romance I like, aside from like a couple of dumb miscommunication things, because there are like situations that they get into that could be solved if they would have a conversation. Like their situation at large, I don't think could be solved by having conversations with each other, which is why the miscommunication doesn't bother me too much, because like they're in a rough situation. So I'm like, would this conversation solve literally anything? Probably not. But like there are certain conversations that they could have that would make things, oh, it's just so, it's the miscommunication. It's just like, oh, I'm not even gonna tell her because she wouldn't understand. I'm like, how do you know? How do you know? But like the main thing that has irritated me about this book is not the exact problem that I run into with like every, it seems, fantasy romance book, but it's like adjacent to that problem, and it irritates me. It's also just so easy to guess that you're like leading up to this thing, and I was like, obviously it's this. there's no way it's not this. And then it was this, and I was like, seriously? You kind of at least subverted my expectations a little bit. But I digress. I don't go to fantasy romance looking for plots that shock me necessarily, but I was hoping for like a little something more, but it's not that big of a deal because like overall, I'm entertained. I'm having a good time. I want to see how things resolve for our characters and I'm rooting for them. So I'm still, despite my couple of complaints, having a pretty good time reading Rebel Witch, and I'm very excited to read the rest of it. It's also a very fast read. Like this book is like 450 pages, which I was thinking was, you know, like a little bit long, but I have been absolutely blitzing through this first like 270 pages. So I'm definitely gonna finish the rest of this up early afternoon. It's about 11 now. I am going out to lunch in a little bit, but like when I get back, I'm gonna be finishing this up. I'm interested to see how everything is going to resolve for our characters, because throughout the entirety of the series, you're kind of just like, how is this gonna work? Because like, obviously they're gonna end up together. That's how all fantasy romances go. So I'm like, how do we get there? And I'm excited to figure out how we get there. I can kind of see like an inkling of where things are going. Maybe certain entities are taking things to the extremes, but I guess I'll just read the rest of this book and see. Again, I feel like this was like a really good pick for this 24-hour readathon. Like so far, thoroughly impressed by my TBR selection for this video because like both of these have been excellent bingeable books. So I'm going to read the rest of this book and then I will come back with an update tonight on, you know, my final thoughts on this, and I still don't know what book I'm gonna read next. We'll find out later what I'm gonna read next. So yes, quick update for this morning. Just wanted to let you guys know how things are going. I might be on track to finish this in 4 days. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I would have to read for like 8 more hours today. 7 more hours. I mean, like, it's kind of crazy, but like not unbelievably crazy. I don't know. We're gonna see. We'll come back later tonight and we'll check in and we'll see. All right, hello. It is later. It is currently about 9 o'clock. I've put on my pajamas. I am ready to just chill out for the night and do some reading. But obviously I wanted to come and give you guys a little bit of an update before I did that because I finished up Rebel Witch. We're gonna talk about it. I have, I think, decided what I'm gonna read next, so we'll talk about that. And I also wanted to give you guys a time update because I just recently hit 13 hours, which is very fun. So I'm over halfway through my readathon. I'm feeling good. I feel like I've read some good books for it as well, so I'm content with how things are going so far. But as I said, I did finish up Rebel Witch and I had such a fun time, honestly. I think I might have enjoyed this a little bit more than I was expecting to because I read Heartless Hunter last year. I really enjoyed it at the time, but I haven't really spent too much time thinking about it ever since. But I figured because it was a duology, because I could just get the second book at the library, I might as well just finish up the series. And I'm really happy that I did because I absolutely loved the romance in this book. Honestly, the plot was fine. It was kind of interesting. It wasn't my favorite thing, but the dynamic between Rune and Gideon in this book, I was eating it up. I was having the best time, honestly. They just have such good banter. They have such a good dynamic. The yearning in this book was really good. I feel like I loved all the scenes that they were in together, and then when they were in, you know, scenes that weren't together, they were just thinking about each other during those scenes, and I was like, yes, thank you, give me more. I also feel like Kristen Ciccarelli did a really good job at kind of stretching out this enemies to lovers, forbidden romance situation over the course of these 2 books in a way that didn't feel really repetitive, and I still felt very like engaged in their romance the whole time. It was just so good. I just like, honestly, the romance really carried this series for me. The plot was fine, but it just didn't really feel like anything I haven't read before. And especially in this book, it felt extremely predictable, which is honestly a problem that I run into with so many of the fantasy romance books that I read. And it's a large reason why I don't read like too much fantasy romance anymore. Obviously I do read some, but I don't read as much as I used to because I just feel like they all feel the same after a while. And I'm tired of that. And like this one also kind of feels the same, but the romance was kind of top tier. So I was like, I'll look past it this once, you know what I'm saying? So big fan, just really enjoyed the duology. It's just a fun time, you know? And sometimes I just want a book that's a fun time. So there we go. There's Rebel Witch, 2 books down for this video. Honestly, I feel like so far I've done an excellent job at selecting books for this video. So we'll see how that continues because I think I've decided what I want to read next. Honestly, the more and more that I think about it, the more that I really want to read the second Dungeon Crawler Carl book. And I bought a copy of it, but alas, she is not here yet, so I'm not gonna do that, but that has been what I've been thinking about. Like, I really want to read Carl's Doomsday, whatever the hell it's called, but alas, I do not have my copy yet. Next vlog, though, I will be reading the second one, and hopefully it'll be so good. But I'm thinking, you know, since I've read some fantasy-esque books for my last 2 reads, I wanted to choose something that wasn't fantasy. Although, I mean, to be fair, those 2 books definitely had very different vibes. But I still kind of just want to switch it up from fantasy overall, and I'm thinking a YA mystery sounds very fun. So obviously, I'm going to be starting Death at Morning House by Maureen Johnson. I do believe, I'm really hoping, I'm pretty sure it's not a part of the Truly Devious series, because I have only read 1 Truly Devious book. I read the first one, and then for like a couple years I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna continue on the series. Guess who never continued on the series? That's right, me. But I'm pretty sure this one is a standalone, despite the fact that it looks like the Truly Devious books a little bit. But I think it can be read as a standalone. But I finally did read, like, the inside flap to figure out what this book was about. Because truly, all I knew was that it was written by Maureen Johnson, who I have read a book from, and I have previously enjoyed. And actually, that's it. That's all I knew. So I figured, you know, it'd still be a good pick for this video. I think it'll be fun. But as soon as I read this flap, I found out that this takes place in an abandoned mansion that was built in the 1920s that is currently abandoned on an island. And I was like, ooh, that sounds like a good setting. That sounds like a setting that I'm very excited about. So honestly, like, as soon as I read that, I stopped reading the synopsis of this book. So I still don't know what it's about. But I at least know where it's taking place. So I'm gonna jump into this one. I think this is gonna be a really fast read, honestly. Oh, does it have a map? Oh, it has a map. Look at this. Oh, I love a map. Even, like, especially a non-fantasy map, because I always expect fantasy books to have maps. So when books that aren't fantasy books have maps in them, I'm always just really impressed, honestly. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to jump into this book. We'll see how it goes. I feel like it's gonna be a fun time, you know? So I will talk to you guys tomorrow, probably, with an update on Death at Morning House. Good morning. It is now Tuesday morning and I'm here with an update because I've actually finished a book. I spent the majority of yesterday finishing up Death at Morning House and I didn't really end up giving a halfway through update because I didn't want to. But we're going to talk about it this morning, so all will be well. And I also wanted to give you guys a time update because I'm currently at 17 hours and 52 minutes. I feel like I might be able to finish this today. I'd really like to finish this today because we're already at 5 days now. And my initial aim was 4. But I feel like 5 wouldn't be too bad, so I'm gonna try and finish this challenge today, but we'll see how that goes because I do have some things I need to do today. I need to go grocery shopping and I need to go to campus to meet with my advisor to select classes for next semester, and I think that's gonna eat up a large chunk of the day. But I'm also confident in my abilities to read for, like, what, 6 hours today? We'll just see how it goes, okay? But, you know, aside from all of that, let me talk about Death at Morning House because, as I said, I started and finished it, and I had a really fun time, honestly. Like, I don't think this is the kind of book that is going to stick in my mind for very long. There wasn't really anything about it that I was just, like, absolutely wowed by. I feel like the mystery was pretty, not necessarily predictable, but, like, you kind of know where things are going. But I feel like it was honestly the perfect palate cleanser book. I do love a YA mystery. Every now and then, I feel like they do always tend to hit the spot. And again, I just feel like I'm choosing really solid books for this 24-hour readathon, so I'm very excited about that because this was just fun, you know? But let me step back for a second and let you guys know what this book is about. So this book is kind of a dual timeline mystery situation. You're kind of learning more and more about different mysteries that take place about 90 years apart, I think. One of them being in like the present day timeline and one of them taking place in the 30s. In the present day timeline, we are following our main character Marlo, who has this really big crush on this girl. She's like obsessed, honestly. So things are going pretty well. She ends up taking this girl on a date to the Cheesecake Factory. Then afterwards, they end up going to this like lake cabin thing that Marlo house sits every now and then. So like it's not her house, but like she's not supposed to be there. And she has this candle that she brought with her and she's like lighting the candle for the ambiance. Everything's going well until the candle literally explodes, which is apparently something that candles can do. And the house ends up catching on fire and it is basically all Marlo's fault. So in the beginning of the book, you're kind of focusing on the fallout of all of that. You see how guilty she feels about it. You see how the other kids at school like bring it up and make fun of her for it. So Marlo is definitely in a funk until one day her history teacher comes like to her house and they're like, hey, I feel like you need to go do something. There's this house called Morning House on this island and they're doing tours of it for the summer and they need somebody else to come and give these tours. And Marlo's basically like, well, I'm not having a good time here, so I might as well like go do that. So we're following her as she is going to this grand mansion called Morning House that she is now kind of a staff member of. You kind of see her getting acquainted with all of the other people that are giving tours and all of the other people that just happen to be on this island. And the more she's there and the more she gets to know these other people that work there, she finds out that one of their friends mysteriously died the summer before and nobody really knows how that happened, who did it, if anybody did it. So that's kind of the mystery that we're following in the present day timeline. But then you also get chapters that take place in the 1930s that are following the family that used to live in Morning House. They were called the Ralston family. It was made up of this doctor and his 6 adopted children. And at the very beginning of the book, you find out that the youngest child, Max, was drowned mysteriously. You're not really sure what happened. And then the oldest daughter of the family ended up presumably flinging herself off the top of the house because of all of the grief she was feeling about her younger brother dying. But there are also a lot of questions in that timeline, and you're kind of following the events that led up to the drowning and the flinging off of the house situation. So you're following these two mysteries as they unravel side by side. I thought it was a pretty interesting way to do it because I feel like initially you don't exactly see what the connection between these two is, aside from the fact that they're taking place in the same spot. But I feel like as they unravel, there are definitely some parallels that start to emerge. So I thought that was a pretty cool way to kind of link them together. I also found the family that you're following in the past timeline to be very interesting. They're very weird. The guy who's a doctor, as I said, he just like adopted 6 children and they have a very regimented routine. They only eat like the best food. They exercise all the time. All of them have like these specialized talents that he wants them to excel at. And initially you're just kind of like, oh, like, you know, that's kind of weird. But then like the more and more the story unfolds, the more sinister undertones start to pop out and you start to understand why he is making his children live the way they are, and the more disgusted you are by this man, honestly, and you're like, no wonder something bad happened here. It's clearly a breeding ground for lunatics, frankly. I really liked our main character, Marlo. I liked her kind of narrative voice because at times she does kind of talk to you as the reader, which I did really like in this context. And I also just kind of liked her self-deprecative, deprecative? Is that a word? Her self-deprecating sense of humor. The only thing is, I didn't really find the current day mystery to be super engaging. Like, it was kind of like piquing my interest at times, but I feel like with the people that are drawn into it, you don't really get to know any of them aside from Marlo well enough to be like super invested in what happened to them, aside from the fact that it's just like vaguely intriguing. Something else I didn't absolutely love is the fact that Marlo isn't really an active participant for most of the book in solving this mystery. I personally really like it in mystery stories when our character is like trying to solve the mystery throughout the whole book and they're like on the lookout for clues. But with Marlo, I feel like she kind of happens upon things for the first like 3/4 of the book and like then she starts to put it together. But I feel like it might have been a little bit more interesting if she had maybe been trying to solve the mystery from the 30s when she got to this island and then kind of got a little bit more interested in what happened recently. So there were just like a couple, you know, like things I didn't absolutely love about this book, but it was honestly like pretty gripping. I liked it. I had a good time. It was fun. But overall, I liked the characters. I also the main thing actually that I really liked about this book was the setting, because as I said in my last update, it does take place in this house that has been abandoned for a while on this island. It was like built in the 20s, and you get a lot of descriptions about the architecture and all of the different rooms, which I really love. I also just really enjoyed the vibe of the island in general because it takes place in the summer. It like rains a lot. It's very like almost summer campy kind of feeling because you're following all of these people that are kind of like stuck on this island where some weird things may have potentially been happening. So I wouldn't say it was like spooky, but I enjoyed the overall like setting of this book a lot. That was one of my favorite parts, I must say. So those are kind of my thoughts on Death at Morning House. Again, really fun. It has honestly made me consider rereading the first Truly Devious book and then continuing on with the series. I don't know if I'll do that, but I know I really liked Truly Devious when I read it. I think I might have given it a 5 stars when I first read it, but of course that was like 4 years ago when I was giving anything I remotely liked 5 stars. But I still feel like it would be a pretty high ranking. I don't know if I will, but it's something I may be considering just like doing in my own time because it sounds kind of fun. So I don't know, I just really do love a YA mystery every now and then. It's a great palette cleanser, and it was like exactly what I needed. So there's book 3 down for my readathon. I'm thinking I can maybe finish one more book in its entirety, but I'm thinking I might go off TBR because the other 2 books I have, I'm not like super feeling either of them at the moment. They're also both library books, and while I, you know, obviously do love reading library books, I would also maybe like to get another book off of my physical TBR, and I feel like this video would be a good time to do that. So I thought we could take a second and I can take a look at my shelves and decide what I want to read next. So I'm gonna stand up and we're gonna take a look. All right, so I'm definitely thinking fantasy, so I'm gonna see what I have on this shelf because I think I have the most like unread fantasy books that are on this shelf. Oh, I could also, something that's not fantasy, I could read Cytonic. This is an option. I have been wanting to read this for a while. How long is it? 400 pages, doesn't seem crazy. We'll keep it as an option. I could read Green Tea. I was gonna read this in a video a while ago, but I did not get around to it, but I still really want to try it. This is also like a semi-recent purchase, so it'd be nice to read that. I could read Uprooted as well. I don't know if this would be a good pick for like trying to marathon a book though. I might not do this one. I also haven't read The Teller of Small Fortunes yet, although from the couple of people that I've seen read this book, they didn't love it. So I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it, especially because cozy fantasy is like already not exactly my favorite thing, so I don't know about that one. Oh, I do also have When the Crow's Away. I mean, it's not fantasy, but could continue on this like little mystery thing that I have going on here. So here are my options. What do I want? What do I want to read? I'm kind of thinking out of the 4, I'm leaning towards Green Teeth. I don't even know why. It's just kind of, you know, speaking to me. So I think I'm gonna try Green Tea. So I need to put these back. I'm also gonna go to the library this morning just because it's been a while since I've gone to read at my library. I also feel like in every vlog, all I do is sit in the same 3 places and read. So it might be nice to go like elsewhere. You know, I'll take this with me as well. This would be like number 2 out of like my selections. So both of these are coming with me to the library. I'm gonna do a little bit of reading, and then I might come back and update my reading journal because I've read 3 books. So obviously I would like to update it a little bit, but those are my immediate plans for the morning. I feel like I have some good selections for the rest of this little reading challenge thing. I also feel like I'll probably be able to finish one of these in its entirety and then I could like start the other one. We'll see. Anyway, let's go to the library. It is now Wednesday morning, and I have not finished my time. I'm not even close to finishing my time. Yesterday was not happening. It was not happening yesterday, okay? Because I ended up going down to campus to meet with my advisor, or I thought I was gonna meet with my advisor, but she ended up not being there, so I wasted like 2 hours doing that. And then I had to go grocery shopping, and then I ended up falling asleep really early last night, so the odds were not in my favor yesterday. But they are going to be in my favor today. I am making it so. I'm gonna finish this challenge today. It's gonna be great. I also do just want to finish my book today, so it'll all work out well in the end. So not exactly the shortest amount of time I've ever finished a 24-hour readathon in, but I also don't care that much. So let me give you a time update, let me give you a reading update, and then I'm gonna finish my book today. I'm gonna finish my time today. That's what's most pressing. So I'm currently at 19 hours and 51 minutes. I think I only read, actually, no, I think I read for like 2 hours yesterday. We do need to chat because I have made some progress with Green Teeth and I'm really liking it. So obviously we're gonna talk about it real quick here. So yesterday I made it up to chapter 8, which is page 94. I think I'm about a third of the way through it so far and I'm loving it, honestly. And I'm already really excited for whatever Molly O'Neill decides to write next because I will be there. I'm pretty sure this is their debut novel and I love it. I love the writing, love the characters, love the ambiance of it all. It has just been great so far, honestly. So we are following our main character, Jenny Greenteeth, who is this lake-dwelling monster. She has this little pond that she resides in that's right outside this little village. She takes care of it, she keeps it tidy, she has a nice little place, you know. And one day this woman is thrown into her lake and the woman like sinks to the bottom and Jenny's like, what is going on here? So she like goes to scope things out. She sees this woman is like conjuring this magic bubble thing in her hand. So she comes to the conclusion that this woman is a witch. So she takes the witch to her cave. She like saves her from drowning, saves her life basically. And we find out that this woman lived in the nearby village and they recently had a new pastor move in who is like all raging against witchcraft and witches. I don't think he's really certain that this woman is a witch. He's just kind of a man in power. So he's like, I'm gonna do something with that basically. So he decided to not even try her for witchcraft. He's just like, you're a witch, you're going in the pond. And she has like a husband and children back in the village. So she's like really obviously trying to stay here, but she can't go back because everybody thinks she's a witch and they think she's dead. So Jenny's getting invested in this story. She wants to help out our main characters. So we're kind of following the two of them as they're figuring out how to get our main character Temperance back into her village and like make everybody forget that it happened basically. So in the beginning of the book, they're trying to put together this spell. They like gather all the ingredients. We also kind of meet one of our other main characters whose name is Brachus. His name is Brachus. Brachus is a goblin and he like buys and sells things to all of the other like fair folk. But anyway, Jenny and Temperance, they get all the stuff they need for the spell. They start to perform it and they realize that something odd is going on in the village. At first everything's okay, but then like there's this malevolent presence that they notice and Jenny's like, oh damn, like I know what this is really not good. We need to like take care of that before we take care of anything else. So seeing as they are very out of their depth, Jenny, Temperance, and Brachus decide to travel into like fairyland basically, and they're going to enlist the help of the fairy court. I don't know how they refer to it in this book. I can't remember, but like something to that effect, you know? So we're going with them on this quest. They then have to convince the like king of the fae to help them out with this like ultra malevolent eldritch being. And it's kind of a questy type story at this point in time, which I do absolutely love. Like I love a quest. I'm just a big fan of a quest, okay? So that's kind of like, you know, the general setup for what's going on in this book, and I love all of that. I also just really love our two main characters. I love Jenny being our main character, and kind of following this book in her point of view has been really enjoyable because she's like thousands of years old. Like, she is incredibly old. So the way that she views a lot of, you know, like, human things is like very nonchalant, and kind of seeing her reactions to a lot of the things that humans do I find to be very entertaining. And I also just really like Temperance as our other main character, so seeing how strong-willed and cunning Temperance is while still being able to see how much she loves and cares and is devoted to her family, I just really love. I also think Brackus is a really interesting like side character to throw into the mix. He's definitely kind of, you know, he likes to stir things up. He likes to stir the pot a little bit. He's a mischievous little goblin, I would say, and the dynamic of the three of them as they are now going on this quest has been really fun to read about. I also love the like descriptions of the environment and the imagery that's in this book. This kind of takes place in the English countryside, and we're kind of watching them as they're ambling through partly fairy and like partly just the English countryside. I love how kind of lush and alive the nature seems in this book through the way that like the writing is portraying it. So I'm a big fan of that so far, and I just like the vibes. Like, the vibes of this book are immaculate, honestly, and I've been having a great time up until this point. I do have like, you know, 200 or so pages left, so we'll see how it goes, because I feel like my deal with cozy fantasy is that at some point I get a little bored, and I don't know if that's gonna happen with this book because, you know, like, we're going on a quest. It's pretty high stakes because there's this evil being that's gonna, you know, hurt people in the village, which, like, that's kind of, well, I don't want to say interesting because that's not good, but like, it'll keep me engaged, you know? So far, so good. I am excited to finish up my book because I am enjoying it. So I'm gonna go do that, and I'll see you later. All right, so it is later, and I'm done. Guys, I can't lie, I'm so happy that I'm done. Here's the proof. 24 hours on my timer. I'm really sad though, because I like to get a clip of my timer turning like from 23:59 to 24, but I literally got a notification the second it turned from 23 to 24, and it ruined my clip. So if that was you, we now have beef. Anyway, we're not here to talk about me being crazy. We are here to talk about Green Teeth, because I did finish it. And I am pretty sad to report that this kind of went the way that a lot of cozy fantasies do for me, in that the setup is so strong. Like, the setup is so good, and I'm always loving it. I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna be so fun. And then I just end up getting like a little bit bored. I think this book has a lot of strong aspects to it, and I definitely enjoyed it, but I feel like there were parts of it that just felt maybe a little bit too meandering for my liking. But again, there were parts that I really liked. Our characters ended up going on even more of a quest than I was initially thinking, because when they got to the fairy court and they were talking to like the fairy king, he was like, all right, I'm like, might help you with this, but you have like 3 tasks that you need to go do before I will give you the information that you need. So very like classic fairy tale feeling with the 3 quests. We all know, you know, the fairies love giving out like 3 things you have to do. And those were kind of fun to follow. Our characters ended up kind of having to traipse like all over Great Britain to like, you know, sort those out, which I liked. I also just really enjoyed the wealth of different fae creatures that were in this book. There were definitely a couple that I hadn't heard of before, so like when I saw them I would like Google them, and I thought that was kind of cool. A lot of them were pulled from Welsh mythology, which like I'm not super familiar with, so getting a little bit of that in this book I really enjoyed. And I mean, they also had, you know, like the typical like high fae. There were brownies, there were a lot of sea monsters. I like the sea monsters because I wasn't very familiar with those. Our main character is kind of like a river hag, I guess. I don't think she's technically a hag, but that's kind of how she is referred to by a lot of the folk. And learning more about her was really interesting too, because she's not the only Jenny Greenteeth. There are like a lot of different Jennies in the world. And in the beginning of the book, she kind of talks about, you know, like how a Jenny is made, how a Jenny dies, what Jennies do. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I liked a lot of that. I also just did continue to enjoy the dynamic between our 3 main characters. The more they went on these quests, you know, the closer they got, but they also had some issues that kind of cropped up in the group, which definitely added, you know, like a little bit of conflict that was kind of interesting, and I kind of liked that. Our characters definitely have different views on life and what makes somebody a good person, so I kind of thought those were interesting conversations to, you know, sprinkle in the book a little bit. But, you know, despite all of that, despite the fact that I also just continued to really enjoy the writing in this book, it feels very much like you're reading a fairy tale, but the main characters are just like a little bit more interesting than a character that you would find in like a classic fairy tale, you know? So there were just a lot of things about this book that I liked, but like overall, my interest was just waning by the end, and I was kind of like, eh. But if you like cozy fantasy, then I feel like this is gonna be like right up your alley. You know what I'm saying? Like if any of that sounds good to you, I would recommend, because like for the most part, I enjoyed it. Yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on Green Teeth. This did end up taking me like a couple of minutes over the 24-hour mark, but if you don't tell anybody, I won't tell anybody. So anyway, we have officially made it to the end of the video. We're at the outro. I'm going to obviously talk about all the books that I've read over the last 6 days. Honestly, it's been a minute, I feel, since I read this many books in this like short of a time span. Like me from a couple years ago would be like, this is light work, but me from this year feels like this is a lot of reading to do in 6 days, which is okay. Obviously, like I've been taking my reading a little bit slower this year, and honestly, it has been so nice. But I did enjoy filming this video because I did read a lot of books that I enjoyed so much in this video. So let's talk through these a little bit and then we'll say goodbye. So the first book that I ended up finishing was, I think, my favorite. No, like this is definitely my favorite out of the ones that I read in this video, which is Dungeon Crawler Carl. I've been checking the tracking on my copy of Carl's Doomsday Scenario quite frequently because I want to read it so bad, and I'm really hoping it'll come in time for my next vlog because I'd really love to read it in my next vlog. But this was just so enjoyable, and I feel like the second, like I just feel like it's gonna continue to get even better as we go throughout the series. So Dungeon Crawler Carl was first, then I also read Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli. Right? Yes. Very fun, witchy fantasy romance kind of situation. Again, I'm really just here for the romance. Like the plot, I could take it or leave it, but like, what's her name? Rune and Gideon. I can't even remember her name. Her name's Rune. The dynamic, the chemistry, big fan, okay? Then I finished Death at Morning House. Honestly, the perfect little YA mystery palette cleanser kind of a book. I am still tossing around the idea of going back to the Truly Devious series. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on that. Like, is it worth it? Should I do it? I'll listen to you guys. You let me know. So, yes, like this one as well. And then I just finished up Green Teeth. So, those are all the books that I read. I did calculate it. It's stuck on a post-it note on the back of one of these. I read 1,500. The book's okay, don't worry. I read 1,531 pages over the course of this video, which I'm quite happy with. Finished 4 books, a lot of them which I really enjoyed. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Obviously, I would love to know if you guys have read any of the books that I read in this video, any of these 4. I would love to have a little bit of a chat about with you guys in the comments. Before we go, I would also like to thank everybody over on my Patreon. If you're ever looking for more content from me, that is always linked down below. But with that, I'm gonna let you guys go. So again, really hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you guys are having an amazing Monday or whatever day it is that you are watching this video. And I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!